What's up guys, not Jason with Thinline Defense, and today we're going to be diving into another micro red dot. Today we'll be looking at the Riton Micro Pistol Red Dot Gen 2. Let's see how this one does. Now, this is our third video in the series, and we'll make sure that there's a playlist, so if you want to see the other videos, you can always go there and check them out. Our first one we looked at was a Crimson Trace Micro Rad, and in the second video we looked at the Primary Arms Classic Series Micro Red Dot. Our current rankings are Primary Arms Micro Red Dot in first, and the Crimson Trace Micro Rad in second. Now, Joe reviewed the Riton Micro Pistol Red Dot Gen 1 last year, and he had some issues with it that led to him not wanting to keep it as his EDC Red Dot. So let's take a look at it and see if they made enough improvements over the Gen 1 to make Joe happy. But first, a huge thanks to Israel Weapon Industries for providing the Masada Slim that you're going to see in this video and all of our Micro Red Dot videos. It's going to be our Micro Red Dot optics test platform for most of these. Now, as a reminder, there's 5 main areas that we cover in each of these videos. First, we'll look at installation. Next, we'll look at the form factor. Third, we take a look at the glass. Fourth, illumination. I'll try to show this in bright and low light scenarios, especially since this one has auto-adjusting brightness. And our last thing will kind of be an all-encompassing additional features. But before we touch into all of that, let's touch on Riton as a company. Riton is an Arizona-based company that started out doing solely optics. They've been a fun company to watch because you see their market research seems to work. For example, Riton used to have binoculars, but now, and I don't have any personal experience with their binoculars, but I'm highlighting the fact that Riton may have seen sales lacking or didn't like the quality of the product they were producing, so instead of sending that out to the mass public, they decided to pull the items. Now, Riton takes their developed optics and they test them. They send them out to Tier 1 military personnel, law enforcement officers, and even competitive shooters. And one of my favorite things, they take this feedback from all these groups, make appropriate changes before they send it out to the general public. Now, do they hit it out of the park every single time? No, but the fact that they listen to their consumers is awesome. Now, Riton claims their focus is on the customer, and based on my experience seeing their quality and their prices, I tend to believe this. I had a chance to meet a few of the Riton folks at TriggerCon 2018, and I was thoroughly impressed with their dedication to customers and trying to get the word out on these awesome optics. I've been a huge fan of Riton Optics for a long time. With the exception of one Primary Arms LPVO, all of my magnified optics are Riton. I even have some of the red dots and magnifiers on rifles scattered throughout my house. But how are they on pistol red dots? Or at least this new iteration of it. Let's see if they can meet our standards on that side of the house. And the first thing we're going to do, tackle installation. Now, this optic does use the RMSC footprint, which fits our IWI Masada Slim just fine. Mine came in bulk packaging with the optic, battery, installation tools, and screws. Now, this comes with only one set of screws, so hopefully they fit your firearm. And problem number 1, these don't fit my IWI Masada. Now, good news for me though, IWI includes optic mounting screws with their firearm, and so we'll just use those. And we saw this problem with the Primary Arms Micro Red Dot. It seems like a cheap, simple fix would be to include screws for the common thread pitches across firearms. Crimson Trace does this, Swamp Fox does this, but this brings up a good question. Thread pitch for the IWI Masada Slim, I think is the same as my Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. But what if you have a Springfield or a SIG? The included screws might work. With the IWI Masada Slim, we luck out because they include screws for your optic. Now, my recommendation, find your proper thread pitch and head to your home improvement store, buy some screws that fit. This may cost you a couple bucks, including gas to and from the store. It's just a pain that the customer shouldn't have to deal with. So if you decide to buy this, you may have some installation problems, and if you don't have other micro red dots lying around, you may be SOL when it comes to installing this thing on your specific firearm. The SIG, Hellcat, and Smith & Wesson Shield all use different thread pitches. There's no mention what size screws these are from Riton, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but a micro red dot should fit all micro pistols. So same advice for Riton as I had for Primary Arms. Why not do what Crimson Trace does and just include all the thread pitches for the common patterns that are out there? It seems like a really cheap fix for Riton going forward. Also, you'll see that the optic fits in the space just fine. It is probably the tightest fit out of the optics we've reviewed to date. I can't get a piece of paper between the rear of the sight and the cutout, and I can barely fit a piece of paper in the space to the front of the sight. Now, I've said this in the Crimson Trace review, I don't mind this. As a reviewer, this is great for me because it gives me peace of mind to know that most of the optics we're going to be messing with should fit in this space just fine. Alright, let's take a look at the form factor. When comparing this with the Gen 1, there are a couple major changes. One, there are no brightness adjustment buttons on the left and the right. From a looks perspective, this looks great. You have this slick look having a solid metal framework from one side all the way to the other. Now obviously this means that this has auto adjusting brightness, but we'll get into that later on. Another major change, there's a rear sight channel on this one. For those of you that watched Joe's video on the Gen 1, which I'll try to link up here somewhere, you may remember this was a complaint Joe had with the Gen 1. Because he couldn't co-witness with his iron sights, it was not an optic he was willing to have on his EDC. Now, my views on this haven't changed all that much, but I think I have a better understanding of red dot usage on your EDC. If you're the type of person that charges their phone every night, you should be able to maintain the battery on your EDC red dot. Do something like change the battery out every time we have that idiotic time change twice a year. Now, if you live in one of the 2 states that don't recognize the daylight savings change, well, you may be screwed with this one. Alexa, remind me to change my Riton battery in 6 months. I will say, not sure how much I trust the Chinese knockoff 2032 battery that they include. Get an Energizer lithium battery and put that in there. Next time you need to change your battery, your kids are probably going to be moved out of the house. Unless you don't have kids, in that case, change the battery when your cell phone becomes obsolete. Back to form factor. I like the look of this. Some of our keyboard warriors will say this doesn't look aggressive enough. What do you want? Angry eyebrows and sharp teeth? Sheesh. Like most of the other optics we'll show in this series, I like that the glass is recessed a bit. It makes it easier to rack the sight against something hard without fear of damaging the glass. There is also windage and elevation adjustment set screws on the top and the right. There's a notch cut out to co-witness, but the optic is still a little too tall to get a full sight picture. But honestly, I didn't see this as a problem. Alright, next area is glass. Riton does say this is multi-coated. They have this whole thing on their website, way too nerdy for me. This proprietary Riton performance coating. Low light enhancement, I think I understand that. Anti-scratch, yep. Anti-reflective, I'm following. Okay. Full wide band. Full what? Well, what do you think full wide band is?
What? Full spectrum? What are you reviewing, a radio? I thought you were reviewing a red dot.
This is KP7 Tango Charlie Charlie. Can anyone hear me? Full wide band, my butt. No. Don't get distracted, we'll be here all day. Alright, not sure how well the camera's going to pick this up, but the glass is pretty clear, although there is a slight blue discoloration near the top of the lens. And thank you to the viewer that educated me on glass coatings. The blue color is supposedly there to help you pick up the red easier. Or something like that. I don't think this has a wide field of view. The perception to me is the field through the glass seems slightly smaller than the other optics we've reviewed. Even with that, the red dot seems to be exactly where I want it to be each and every time. Alright, next we're going to take a look at illumination. Now, unlike the primary arms, this one has auto illumination, which can sometimes be frustrating. The idea of auto illumination is appealing to me, but there seem to be some drawbacks sometimes. Now, Walsh has talked about this in some of his red dot videos, where the auto brightness just doesn't really work the way it should. Like, if you're in a dark room, but aiming through a door or a window to a bright area, sometimes the red dot doesn't really show up very well. But I didn't see that problem with this red dot. From a dark room or low light setting aiming to a bright area, I could pick up the red dot just fine. Now, being in the low light room, I could tell that the red dot dimmed, but it was still bright enough to be used aiming towards a bright area, which is super impressive for this level of auto illumination. Alright, finally we get into my favorite category, which is additional features. Really, this is just a catch-all where I include all the things that didn't fall neatly into those other 4 categories. First thing, water and shock resistance. And I put these 2 together because Riton puts them together. According to Riton, this is 100% waterproof, fog-proof, and shock-proof. Now, this is interesting to me. Some of the other red dots we're going to review that claim this come with a ceiling plate that the red dot needs to sit on top of, but this one doesn't. Now, I couldn't find anywhere on the website that gave a specific IP rating, like sometimes you'll see IPX8 or IPX7. Couldn't find that on their website. Like, I think IPX7 would be waterproof, but it's only a certain depth and for a certain amount of time. Anyways, next thing to highlight is shake to wake, also known as that sweet, sweet magic that keeps you from having to change the battery every so often. I think we'll just stick with shake to wake. Now, let's pair that with Riton's claims of a 50,000 hour runtime. Let's nerd out a bit here and pair that with the shake to wake feature. Let's say from boots on to boots off, you're carrying this thing. So you get 16 hours a day with this thing on. That means over 3,000 days or 8.5 years. So you shouldn't have any complaints about the battery going out on this thing. Another thing to touch on, the bottom access battery. Like I shared previously, almost all the red dots we're going to show have this. It's becoming less and less of an issue for me. And with a 50,000 hour runtime, you're not going to have a lot of time taking this thing on and off. So it may not be an issue for you, but I do want to highlight it. One other thing to discuss, their warranty. Riton has a no-nonsense lifetime warranty. You don't need to be the original purchaser. You don't need to register anything. Got a receipt? Well, you don't need that. Make your wife happy and throw that garbage away. Even getting into the details and reading some feedback from customers, Riton seems pretty forgiving with their lifetime warranty. Like, if you have to use some other screws besides the provided ones, they won't void your warranty. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but I highlight that because there are some companies out there that are known to void warranties over something stupid like that. Alright, as we round out our video, we need to revisit our list. Based on everything mentioned, the tests we did, and the lack of any major cons, like maybe needing to get different screws, this is going in first place. That's it for me, folks. I hope you liked this series, and I hope you liked this video. I want to say thanks to our Patreons and our YouTube members for the support for making videos like this possible. And thanks to everyone that likes, comments, and subscribes. Comment down below, let me know what you think about this optic. Alright, I'm out.
Stupid right to bear arms.